Welcome to The Explainer. Let's jump right in. Today we're talking about one of the absolute most fascinating phenomenon in cinema. We're looking at how severe financial limitations, literally having no money, actually force filmmakers to become master storytellers. We're going to completely deconstruct the mechanics of fear and show you exactly how independent creators are building absolute nightmares with empty wallets.
It's the ultimate high-stakes question, isn't it? How do you terrify an audience with $0? No CGI monsters, no massive sound stages, no A-list celebrities. Just you, a camera, and a totally unhinged idea. Well, in this explainer, we're going to give you the deconstructed blueprint to pull this off, pulling directly from veteran indie filmmakers, deep-dive internet forums, and some seriously gripping script examples.
The Zero Budget Horror Challenge, turning constraints into creative fuel. To really prove that low-tech solutions can yield high-concept dread, we'll be using an incredible Arabic short script called The Last Shadow House as our anchor case study.
Section 2. Mastering Found Footage. Rules from the Trenches. Because look, while found footage is undeniably cheap, it requires incredibly strict internal logic to actually be scary.
Okay, let's dive into this. We have all seen those painfully bad amateur found footage films, right? They're plagued by terrible hallmarks. Endless nausea-inducing shaky cam, fake surround sound that defies all logic, and completely oblivious characters who just ignore obvious danger. But the pros, the veteran filmmakers, they follow strict rules from the trenches. First, the filming absolutely must be justified. Why are they holding a camera? You need to use a tripod or a stabilizer. You gotta rely on raw audio picked up by the mic itself. And crucially, you have to start in a grounded, boringly mundane world before you rip that comfort away.
Let's look at how our case study, The Last Shadow House, actually executes this mundane to terrifying pipeline. It perfectly maps out the protagonist Adam's escalating descent. Check this out. At minute 1, he's just a confident streamer, joking around with his live stream chat outside this abandoned house. But by minute 3, subtle things are wrong. Scratches just suddenly appear on the walls. By minute 6, we get this deeply creepy visual of an unseen, eyeless woman standing at the end of a hallway. And finally, by minute 9, the internal logic breaks down completely, and he just drops the camera in total unadulterated panic. The escalation is earned step by excruciating step. Section 3. The Time Loop Trap, a psychological puzzle. This brings us to another incredibly effective zero-budget narrative tool.
Okay, so formally defined, a time loop is a plot device where characters re-experience a span of time, often resetting when a specific condition, like, say, dying, is met. It creates this closed chain of causality. But what makes this so incredibly powerful for a zero-budget filmmaker is that it traps the protagonist in one single location. It forces them to rely entirely on their memory to escape, while you, the filmmaker, get to reuse the exact same set over and over and over again. It's brilliant.
But a time loop operates as way more than just a cheap scare tactic. It's actually a psychological puzzle for both the character and the audience. The character usually goes through 4 stages. First, the initial entrapment in the cycle. Second, that terrifying realization that the loop actually exists. Third, they start using retained memories to try and progress or solve the puzzle. And fourth, they either finally escape or they fail completely. It basically turns your horror film into an interactive puzzle of dread.
And this brilliantly illustrates how The Last Shadow House uses the concept. Adam tries to bolt out the front door, right? But the house has changed. Every single door he opens leads right back to the exact same dark hallway. He is completely trapped. This creates an overwhelming sense of claustrophobia. And honestly, the best part? The filmmaker only had to light and dress a single hallway to achieve the whole shebang.
Section 4. Writing the Nightmare. Distilling fear into a single scene, because we really need to look at how you write for a short format.
There's this fantastic piece of advice from an experienced screenwriter that perfectly captures the right mindset. They say, take one scene from a horror feature. You need a beginning, middle, and end, but not all the setup details. You see, short horror isn't about some epic, sprawling plot with deep lore. It's about isolating a single, highly effective, terrifying moment and just wringing every last drop of tension out of it.
Let's rapidly break down the beats of our case study script so you can see how this works in practice. Within a strict 10-minute limit, it hits every single beat perfectly. It starts totally mundane with our confident streamer. Then, boom, the subtle warning signs, a whispered voice saying don't look at the photo. Next, the terrifying discovery of the eyeless woman in the red room. Then the twist hits you. Adam discovers a 30-year-old photo proving his missing father was in this exact house. The climax hits when a dusty VHS tape reveals the house literally feeds on fear. And finally, the devastating shock ending. Adam escapes only to find the outside world is completely empty, and a photo reveals he's actually been trapped in a time loop since 1994. It's this massive, devastating narrative arc compressed perfectly into a single location.
Section 5. Guerrilla Filmmaking Hacks. Low-tech solutions for high concepts. We are pivoting straight into the raw, boots-on-the-ground reality of physical production.
Listen to me. If you take literally nothing else away from this explainer, remember this trench-level truth. Audio is king. People can forgive bad lighting, but not bad sound. Terrifying an audience relies almost entirely on what they hear. A subtle scratch, a heavy, shaky breath. You absolutely must record clean audio and always record a full minute of silent room tone on set to smooth out your edits later.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between the absolute worst way to shoot horror in the dark versus the smart, indie way. Amateurs will just grab a flashlight and roll, which results in terrible, flat, super grainy footage. But pros know you either shoot day for night, meaning you film during the day and color correct it to look dark later, or you use highly creative, cheap, practical lighting to build intentional, creepy shadows.
Okay, here's your rapid-fire, zero-budget checklist. You want to simulate a fake live stream? Don't build expensive custom graphics. Just screen record an actual interface over a black screen and use blending modes in your editor. Boom, done. Need fake edible blood? The classic Hollywood recipe is just Cara syrup, red Kool-Aid, and a dash of chocolate syrup to darken it up. Remember our rule on camera movement? Use a tripod or stabilize your shots. Messy movement only works during moments of total chaos. And finally, rehearsal. Always do test shots beforehand to check your lighting and your audio. With a little ingenuity, you seriously don't need a Hollywood budget.
Section 6. Creativity beats the budget. The true source of fear. Let's tie all these mechanical hacks right back to the emotional core.
It is absolutely vital to remember that the most terrifying things in cinema are completely 100% free. Pure psychological dread, the intense fear of the unseen, and that deeply unsettling uncanny valley effect, where something looks almost human but moves or acts slightly wrong, these cost absolutely nothing to film. You don't need $1 million to make someone feel deeply uncomfortable.
There's this chilling quote from the horror novel Ashes of Light that just perfectly summarizes everything we've talked about. Sometimes what you fear isn't in the dark around you. Maybe your true monster lies within. The truest scares, the ones that stay with you, they don't come from external, multi-million-dollar budgets. They come from internal budgets. They come from exploring isolation, crushing guilt, and the terrifying breakdown of reality.
So you have the blueprint. You know how to structure the escalation, how to use time loops to save on locations, and how to execute guerrilla hacks for your sound and lighting. The constraints are no longer an excuse. They are literally your greatest advantage. So I'm going to leave you with this final challenge. Grab whatever camera you have in your pocket right now. What nightmare are you going to film today?